Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. We're here talking about racial issues in America. I'd like to kick it off by having us meditate on the mind of black people. Is that mind liberated? Is that mind educated, informed about how we came to America's racial condition? A couple of weeks ago, it's probably been a month or two now, I met like this little Chinese girl, beautiful, and she was like recently from the homeland China, and uh, I forget, like, of course, I don't remember the name of her town, but we had fellowship, her and I, at a bus stop, right? And we were very forthcoming, and I'm sure she didn't realize it, but she was blowing me away by her transparency and her desire to be, you know, to get information from me. She asked me questions. I asked her questions. This little black American, little Chinese girl. Now, the significance of that illustration is that I was taken, I had some perspective on something that goes on in America, and America creates this environment of bias and hate around color. And this young Chinese girl uh, had not been infected by it. I think it's something that happens to people as they stay here long enough. But I do get a different story from people who've traveled abroad. That in general, there's more of a in general, they don't encounter some of the issues so common concerning race in America. Well, do black people mentally understand that? That's something, racism along color lines. Other peoples of the world have their issues, to be sure. But this thing about the strict color line in America is just tearing us up, and it's preventing us from coming together and being productive, in what America could be. It's hugely problematic. Hugely problematic. And does the black mind understand that America's unique in that way? For white folks, you know, the understanding of privilege, power, favor in the nation and the world. We already kind of understand that some black people, some white people have feelings about what their ancestors did, through slavery, Jim Crow, lynchings, and some of that stuff. So racism, sometimes is a tough subject to have a conversation about with white folks, because some of them feel some sense of guilt around that. And I think we could have a long, good series about both sides of that equation. But at the same time, does the white mind understand that even though we have those historical precedents to reflect on, that they still come out winners, ahead of the game, and doing well in America? does the white mind desire more equity, any level of change? Now, I got a couple of white friends that are doing well in America that do have expressed like some angst about the disparity of wealth, especially along color lines. So and that's an encouragement to me. It's not like all white people are, you know, bent on grinding black people into the pavement. Some of the white people, especially ones I'm close to, have some consciousness about that. Financial literacy is another big issue in my mind, mostly because I am poor. But I'm starting school, and I've taken out more loans. I'm just kind of throwing up my hands and trusting the universe to bring me out on the other side of this thing into a lucrative situation, and so he can eradicate some of that. But I'm not the only person in that boat. I hear student debt was in the trillions, which isn't really bad news. If you read a book by G. Edward Griffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island, you won't feel bad about loans being that much, because he talks about how money's created out of nothing and all that. So I'm not a master at the subject. I just read the book, and I'm reading it again because it has that much impact on me. But if you read the book, you'll find that loans are not as detrimental and debilitating as you think. Their loans come from some place where financial scientists create money out of nothing. You got to read the book anyway. I'm inspired to do the work. We're talking about historical, factual precedents about racism in America aimed at black people, and I got on this path from the work of a man named Dr. Paul Anderson over at 3 of his works. Get these books, reference these, no matter what color you are, because it's all stuff that you can find, factual stuff. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. And we are in that book going through our series on voting today, and we got a couple more days. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Powernomics. Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2Single. You'll find black women support one another, having conversations around their issues. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a black Facebook experience also. If you can't find your flavor or voice here on the worldwide billions of links web, then do what I did. Start your own little flavor, your family. I got a very select small group of private email subscribers that I interact with on a limited basis. Nobody gets different content, but if you want to talk to me, then we can make it happen. And finally, don't want to forget my favorite time. We talked about a lot of stuff, disadvantages, and it might leave us feeling negative, whatever. But we do take a fictional break, looks at a lot of these issues. Uncle Tom's Cabin. A lot of points of conversation come up as we go through that work. Called Story Time. And I took a lot of notes. I did a big story time thing while I was on vacation, and so we're getting back to historical, factual stuff. But I promise you, we're going to get back to story time very soon, very shortly. Now, we're going through our series on voting. It's not the first, probably won't be the last, but in light of the 2020 November election is just a little over a year away, and if you follow the news, you'll see the Democratic candidate, somebody is on the news from the Democratic race every day, and we see the incumbent Republican with his behavior every day. Hard to escape. It's a new normal for us. But black folks, we can educate ourselves about voting, how to vote, what to consider when voting, and present ourselves as a present ourselves with legitimate concerns, things we need done politically, things we want to have happen for us collectively in this nation. That's we're watching, other groups finding their ways to get together, get ownership, gain wealth, and all that. Our white counterparts, they seem to have inherited it and are going along, so we don't have to go long into that subject. But we're talking about, how the Hispanic community rises up, how the Hmong community, those people interlaced with a little bit with the Vietnamese, how they're coming up. I live in my city, a lot of Russians, big Russian community doing well. Oh, the Asians, Arabs, especially out in Detroit, these communities, they're doing some right things internally for themselves, but they're getting some assistance and help from the American system that's denied black folks. That's some of the information you'll gather from Dr. Anderson's material. You stick around here long enough, I encourage you to go on YouTube and check him out and do your own vetting and research. Today is day 237, and it's his third point about voting and political principles, and it's to aggregate group resources, vote as a racial bloc. And he says aggregate group resources, he's talking about collecting the people, and of course collecting the resources that can make that political engine run in their favor, voting as a racial bloc, and making sure that the powers that be know that blacks have come together as a racial bloc. Politics is about power, accessing a favor in America. The group, the political group that wins gets the prize. They get resources, access to wealth, influence. Their agenda moves forward, and all that. So this aggregation, this unity of black people is important to get things done, to appear as that unified bloc. It's going to send a message to that representative. It's like I'm not. Well, let's use the military. For it's like when Desert Shield or Storm one step we got Iraq out of Kuwait, and then the next step we went, I think that was Desert Storm, but um, the rumor was the Air Force was going in, and the Iraqi Air Force, Iraqi had planes, they're coming, they're going to have a fight. Well, when it was realized that, the Allies had a super force, the Iraqis tucked tail and took those planes to Iran. Same way with our potential in politics is we're going to, if blacks came together, we would come together as that unified voting bloc together as one individual. So if you got whatever the number of blacks are, or whoever's supporting that agenda, telling that man or woman, you better produce or else. We've got a shot at getting some benefits, securing some benefits for black folks. Big problem here that is against us. Right? That's um, the favorable idea of blacks coming together. But what is against us is that Dr. Grierson states it as blacks are a planned permanent minority. We're that for a lot of reasons. We talk lately consistently about historical precedents from the creation of the Constitution of the United States to amendments to Jim Crow laws and all this stuff. You should be used to hearing that by now. But we're not represented. We weren't represented at the creation of the nation. We were just the labor force, the silent portion of America, built things, planted, gleaned, harvested, loaded boats. That was our identity. And it was intended that identity be maintained into perpetuity. The whites would be in control of the perpetuity. Blacks would be at a disadvantage into perpetuity. Look at history, we see, as far as a planned permanent minority, is that we're a people experiencing anemic, lethargic growth and participation in the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world. And at the same time, we bear collectively as a community the brunt and bulk of America's dysfunction through addiction, illiteracy, incarceration, as two big home runs, against us in America. Challenged family life as well, right? It's a per capita thing. Most blacks are raising themselves. I gotta say, towards a great degree to which I raised myself, in a sense, because both parents had to work hard, and then of course divorce came in. These things aren't as common, amongst white folks. There's more of a unity of white couples over a longer period of time, and they just do well on that note. Black community identity is being eroded. It gets eroded with the breakdown of the family. So this, but these things, these are planned, these are engineered. You know, I see like issues on this opioid epidemic. I see, I'm sorry, epidemic. I noticed there's an attention there that wasn't as visible when cocaine and crack invaded the black communities. We had our commercials, just say no and whatnot, but that this opioid epidemic is eroding and causing issues in the white community. I'm seeing a lot more attention there than the cocaine and crack issues. With cocaine and crack, it was a war on drugs and incarceration, skyrockets. With opioids, there's pharmaceutical intervention and more access to nice rehabs, things like that. But that's anything where that puts blacks at a disadvantage is not some surprise. It's not the system being impotent or ignorant or being surprised by the outcome of some initiative. All these things are very well anticipated, almost forced to happen against black people in America. So therefore, we got to come together as a group, casting off those chains and securing ourselves as a one singular block moving in the same direction to encourage politicians to get on board with helping us get our needs met. An independent black party would be a great thing. And what's sad is black folks get dissuaded, get discouraged, because when you start to present blackness, black issues to the world, you're suddenly, the walls come up, you get the resistance. You can talk about any other group, any old kind of way, and you can have a nice conversation. But you start forwarding a black agenda for black people, then you want to get people uptight, you're going to get resistance, and you're not going to be able to express yourself. All these things are going to happen as black people, try to move freely and just as similar as other groups in America. Which is sad, we bore the 60s. We were the reason for the 60s, and yet you see a lot of other groups benefiting from that, from those initiatives, from the bloodshed and all that. Other groups have their martyrs and legitimate encounters with the powers that be in America, but it's black people that broke that ground, and so we should be recipients. We should not have to hold our tongue or be bashful about black issues in America, because these things are still in force today. The privation, marginalization, racist practices in the workplace, hiring, businesses, and all that. It's still very, there's a big racial element in all of that in America. We must hold our leaders accountable in America. We tell them, if you don't give us a promise, don't intend to follow through on it, you don't get our vote. We need to change some of the cycles of the past where someone pretended to be on board with helping blacks, helping blacks come out from under or compete equally in America, and then turn their backs after they got what they wanted. We talked yesterday about being a collective bloc and having the power to either remove a politician who's lying or make sure they know that they put their re-election highly at risk in ignoring concerns for black people. We don't want your initiatives in the community and raising public awareness is all that. But this forum here, racial change, is about steps to accessing that power, accessing that wealth in America. Keep that forefront in your minds. We can go on and on. I've not seen, I've never seen it implemented, where an exclusively black political message is taken seriously, and that will be a winning strategy in the land of America. Dr. King did great work. Him and other black leaders, especially at kind of the height of the 60s, but they got distracted and the message got diluted when black people let down their guard and started adopting this inclusive language, and all kinds of other groups rushed in. I talk about when I used to handle dogs, and to let them out, they collectively know what time it is, but you're only letting out one dog at a time as their parent shows up. And the thing is, the dogs see that happening and they start crowding around, and it makes it difficult for you to do your work. Try to minister to the dog deserving of that, the benefit of going on home to see their parent, so they can roll around and run in the yard and lick all over their parent stuff. I love dogs. I could probably give you a whole lot of illustrations, but that's a good illustration. Right? Black people were there, probably right at the brink of making the breakthrough, because we got we get amendments and policies and legislations and all kinds of great stuff. But we left money on the table. When I was in college learning some music business, the instructor he always warned us, make sure you understand this process, because you don't want to leave any money on the table, because you better be certain there's somebody there that knows how to maximize and gather any resources that you're ignorant of. Same way in real estate. Went to a seminar back at the beginning of the year to just get my feet wet, try to understand some stuff. And one of the presenters, gave us a scenario, and he's like, okay, you could walk away with a couple $1,000, not bad. But as he gets input from his crew, you're realizing that there's many more thousands of dollars to be had if you manipulate the system in certain ways. My dumb ass would be happy making a couple $1,000, and I'd leave the room, and all these other interested parties be there to gobble up what's left. We don't want that to happen for black folks. if we know that we're a planned minority in America, then we can take some steps to come out from under that. I believe Dr. Anderson's statement is true about being a planned permanent minority, and we can, based on that fact, we can take some steps. We can plan, create some blueprints to make us successful in America as well. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. That's day 237 out of the way. Thanks for hanging out. I hope I made some sense for you today. A lot of this stuff is new. I'm just brand new to the conversation. I know my experience will bear this out, but now as I articulate it, it's quite the challenge. But you're helping me get my facts straight and get the argument clear in my mind, so that now when I move, when I give resistance at work and try to have conversations, I'm informed about how that dynamic is specifically occurring in my life through this work. Thanks for hanging out with me. I don't want to hold you hostage. Please come back tomorrow. We'll hang out again. Bye-bye.